Alright, hello and welcome Warthunder players to why you shouldn't buy the Jaguar. Now, I'm new into the scene, you probably haven't heard of me. My actual name is Aiden and I go by the screen name of Creator. In this video I'm going to go through, just a couple of things on why you maybe should or shouldn't buy the Jaguar. Personally, I bought the Jaguar because not only did it look cool but it looked like good fun. Now, I haven't got any ground battle vehicles so I can't do any ground battle testing in this. But I can say, for the sky, it's quite interesting. It's a very unique playstyle, but we'll get into that in a moment. So, if you're here trying to figure out whether you should or shouldn't grind for this, because, let's be honest, it's not going to be fun trying to get to it, then this is probably a good place to be. I'm going to go over a few reasons for why and why not you should buy it, and also show some footage in the background of me using it. Now, I'm not a very good player, but I've got a couple hundred hours now, I'm a little bit experienced, I still make really dumb mistakes, but that doesn't stop me from flying this plane, right? And it is good fun. So, regardless of that, let's just get on with what I have to say about it. Right, well, I think the most important thing we're going to discuss in this video is the fact that we are playing Missile Thunder, not War Thunder. Once you get 10-0 plus, it's all missiles, no skill. So let's get on to talking about the Jaguar's missiles. The Jaguar gets two AIM-9G Sidewinder missiles, and yes, you heard it right, only two. It's not a lot, but it does do work. It's 2 free kills if you pick the right targets. Now, speaking of the right targets, realistically, you're not going to take out a Phantom. Phantoms are off the list of things to kill. Same for the Mirage, and stuff like the MiG-21. Those are pretty hard targets to kill in this Jaguar. However, targets such as a MiG-19 or maybe an Su-7, they're a lot easier to kill. Now, with these missiles, I personally, from my experience with this jet, would recommend aiming for slower targets. I'm pretty sure this is pretty normal for most missiles anyway, but these missiles work like a dream when the target is moving much slower, or even when you're right behind them in a climb. That also works really well. And going back to the F4 Phantoms, for example, the only way you're going to kill one of them with these missiles is if they are brain dead. Alright, I'm telling you now, unless they are flying in a straight line, not looking around, you're not going to kill them with these missiles. Just bear that in mind. However, if you find a stray MiG-19 or maybe an Su-7 flying around you, and you try and get them into a turn, or you just have them trying to fly away from you, absolutely launch a missile at them. Usually they do hit, and they hit quite hard. I very rarely get critical hits with these missiles, and they're pretty much a guaranteed kill with their 16G overload. And this isn't as much as, say some of the missiles the F4 Phantoms get, and most certainly not the same as the Mirages, which get 30G missiles. But 16G is enough to hit a slow-moving target. But again, choose your targets wisely, otherwise they're not going to hit. And remember, you only have 2 of these. Most other jets have at least 4, so you're a little bit under-equipped, let's say, for the job. However, that doesn't matter, because you get 2 30mm Aiden cannons. Now, these things, these absolutely murder anything. They're really well known for their 1-burst kills, absolutely in any scenario. If you're in a head-on, shoot 1 burst, it will usually kill them as long as they don't pull off it. I strongly recommend trying to get good with your guns and not the missiles, since you're going to find the missiles don't usually work and you're going to have to resort to dogfighting in this. The Jaguar is quite maneuverable, but it loses a lot of speed and turning. If anything, this jet just burns speed like it's paper. It really doesn't last very long. You need to make sure, when you're flying this, you try not to turn as much as possible. But understandably, this is hard when you have like an F4 Phantom or an F104 Starfighter right on your tail, because, let's be honest, they're a lot faster than you. Speaking of which, let's go on to the speed of this. So, the Jaguar gets 2 Rolls-Royce Turbo Mecha Limited Door Mark 102 jet engines, right? They are very powerful engines, and they'll easily propel this thing through Mark 1. However, at sea level, you're going to get told you're going to rip your wings. And this is true, once you hit about, the 1270 km/h mark, your wings are going to fall off. So you do have to be careful in a straight line at sea level. However, once you start getting high to, the 3,000, 4,000 meter level, you can get much faster. You can get around, I've gone 1.15 mark in this, but granted that's without me turning or being chased by anything. Unfortunately, although this jet can go very fast, it's not going to outrun something like the F-104 or the F-4 Phantom or the Mirage, for example, or the MiG-21, which is another plane you're going to come up against. Now, I would personally advise try to stay out of the battle for as long as possible when flying this jet. What you want to do is, unfortunately it's very boring, but you need to side climb or you need to rush straight down the middle at sea level. There are two good reasons for this. First of all, let's talk about side climbing. When you side climb, you're probably going to get quite a good amount of altitude, which means you can keep a lot of speed. However, again, you're still going to get out-turned, out-accelerated, and outgunned by most jets, i.e. the F-4 Phantom, because it's usually Phantom spam up there. However, another way I personally like to fly is straight along the deck. Just absolutely rush their side of the base, go as fast as you can without ripping your wings, and people won't come and get you, because most people in F-4 Phantoms will space climb. They'll sit like 7,000 meters, and they'll ignore you. You'll find the odd Phantom come along down there, but it's okay, because you can avoid them, and just carry on in a straight line. All you want to do is try and get to the enemy line as fast as you can, and then start climbing. This will usually get you a good idea for what enemies are where, and you do get chased every now and then, but it's quite rare. It doesn't happen often. Well, now we've gone through the bulk of the general information about the Jaguar, i.e. how fast it goes and what sort of guns it gets and missiles, for example. But let's go through the dedicated section of pros and cons of its plane, and we'll start with the cons and leave you on a nice note with the pros. So, the first con is the low acceleration. It does out-accelerate Hunter FGAs, right? No problem. Obviously, it's got two engines, two afterburners, that's not an issue. But you're not going to out-accelerate something like a Phantom, a MiG-21, a Mirage, or even an Su-7. It's quite a slow accelerating vehicle, but once you get it up to speed, it's actually not too bad. The next con is the low missile count. Now, 2 missiles, that's not a bad thing. That's 2 free kills if you use them correctly, but again, as I said earlier in the video, you have to use them correctly, and if you don't understand my point back then, just look for slower targets. That's the easy way to get kills with these. The next thing is, it has pretty mediocre energy retention when it's turning. When you put this thing into a turn, it loses all of its speed, and you will usually find yourself coming out of a dogfight with usually around 400 to 500 kilometers an hour of speed, which isn't a lot, and as you know, usually a slow jet is a dead jet. It's not always true, but if you don't pick your fights right, this is going to be what happens. And then finally, the last big con I can really find is it has a relatively low speed. Now, the important word here is relative, alright? What I mean by relative is it's slow relative to an F-4 Phantom, relative to a Mirage, relative to a MiG-21. They're all very fast jets. This does go fast. It passes the sound barrier. It's very quick, it goes through Mach 1 like it's nothing. But you're still gonna get chased down by literally everything else on the battlefield, unless it's, I don't know, maybe a MiG-19, or if you do somehow come against a Hunter, it might be a Hunter. Usually you'll outrun them, but everything else you're not going to outrun. However, let's leave the cons alone for a second and go to the pros of this plane. First of all, the missiles, I rarely ever have to go and follow up a kill after launching a missile at someone. Most of the time you can just kind of launch and fly away and not even think about the missile, it will get you the kill. There are the odd times where the missile will just fly straight, but I think that's more of a bug than anything. But usually these missiles do work very, very well. Next thing is, it's very maneuverable at high speeds. Again, yes, you got that mediocre energy retention, but that doesn't matter, because when you don't have flares, which something like the F-4 Phantom does, having missiles launch at you, it's a little bit of a difficult situation. What you really want to try and do is get the missile to be chasing right behind you, not coming in at an angle or on top or below you. Try and get right behind you, so at last, 0.8 of a kilometer, you can swerve very hard in any direction and easily dodge most missiles. Even magic missiles from stuff like the Mirage, you will probably dodge actually, because this thing does turn pretty damn well. It's not got the fastest turning circle, not as fast as the F-4 Phantom, but this thing's initial turn speed is pretty incredible. Next, the cannons. I don't have to say much about these. The 30mm Aidens, they're nuts. You really can't beat these cannons. You can be so forgiving with them, and you can really spray these. I mean, sure, they only have, I think it's 320 shots in the magazines, but that doesn't stop you from spraying them. If you really need to use the ammo, use it, because more often than not, you're either going to die, or you're going to find you still have a lot of ammo left over. And finally, let's talk about the climb rate, because I haven't mentioned this yet, but this thing does climb pretty damn well if you get it up to speed first. I find, especially with my tactic of rushing down the middle of the map, once you start rushing and get past a muck barrier, you just put it into a small incline and this thing will zoom climb like crazy. Last time I checked, around 80 meters per second of climb rate, which is very good. It's not quite competing with the about 140 meters per second of the Phantoms, but it's still very, very competitive, and it will get you up. It's not a big issue. Now, that's about really all I've got to say for the pros and cons. I'm going to now just kind of go out and say whether you should buy this thing or not, because personally, I really love this jet, and I have enjoyed playing it. As you see, I've got a custom skin I made for it, because I liked it enough to do that for it. And this is the thing, it's a really strange playstyle. If you want free, easy kills, don't buy this thing. It's not going to be easy to get free kills, or easy kills, because most people are flying in Phantoms, and Phantoms aren't easy to kill. If you want something to get free kills with, go find a Phantom. Much easier. However, if you're looking to have fun, say maybe in a squad with your mates, or you play solo but you like a much, more difficult style of gameplay, I'd say go for this. It is good fun, and on the bright side, if you do play Ground Forces, you can bring this thing in at 10-0, and it is insane. You get, I believe, 8 or so 1,000 pound bombs. Correct me if I'm wrong, I actually don't know, I didn't check this before I did this. But you get a lot of 1,000 pound bombs, right? And that ballistic computer you get in this, absolutely amazing for hitting ground targets. And if you're wondering how I know this, because at the beginning I said I haven't played any Ground Forces with this. Well, obviously, test flying it, I can put the ballistics computer on, go test it on things, and see how it does. And from my experience, that ballistics computer changes the way you play this jet. It's absolutely amazing. You know exactly where the bombs are going to drop, how far you need to drop them from, for example, so you don't end up blowing yourself up. Or, I mean, you can put a fuse on, but if you don't want a fuse, there you go. But that ballistics computer is very, very powerful. So if you are a big Ground Forces player, I'd say pick this thing up. Especially if you're playing British tanks. This is a very fun jet. Of course, stuff like the Phantoms, they're still better, yes. There's no doubt about that. Phantoms, they're pretty much unfaultable. You really can't find something bad about the Phantom. But realistically, look, again, if you like Ground Forces, buy it. If you like a challenge, buy it. If you want free and simple kills, do not buy this, because you will tear your hair out trying to use it, especially spading it. Spading it is interesting. I actually had a pretty good experience with spading it because I was used to using the F7, the Swift F7 that is, with the two 30mm Aiden cannons which this thing gets. And so I was used to the gun, so I could go and get gun kills. However, until you spade this thing, it really doesn't have its fullest potential, and it really just doesn't shine that much. You'll find more often than not that everything is going to kill you, and you can't do anything about it. So, if you do buy it, spade it by trying to target ground targets in air battles. So, go around looking for anti-air or armoured targets that you can take out with those cannons. However, that's really all I've got to say about the Jaguar, and I do hope this has helped you make a decision on if you do or don't want to buy it. And at the end, I'm just going to link my socials, really. All I can say is subscribe and like if you enjoyed this. And follow me on Twitch. I'll leave a little animated bit at the end to show you what my channel is. It's creator_CR in case I don't do it and I get lazy. But again, thank you for watching, and I hope this helps you make a decision. See you later.